Hey, just to make you aware, this video will contain spoilers of various sizes for the following pieces of media. Also, content warning for some heavier topics in said media. If you're cool with that, I'm glad to have you. If not, come back when you're ready. I'll still be here. Let me ask you something. What makes a character resonate with you? Is it the way they look, their thought processes about the world, or perhaps something so miraculously different yet familiar about them, it's as though you're peering through the looking glass? We all have that favorite character, the one that's held it down since day one, through your darkest moments, brightest days, and even those periods where life was just meh. Some call it a childhood favorite. Others believe they would not be who they are today without it, and that's understandable. But what about the other side of the spectrum? The people, ideas, and things that aren't relatable no matter how hard you try. A lot of folks believe that those who fall into this category are just the side characters you can't see yourself understanding on a fundamental level. But no. That is selfish, that is unrealistic, and perhaps most importantly, that is limiting. So today, we're going to discover what happens when the main character of all people just isn't relatable, and the personal impact it has on how you view the narrative at all. Stanley Kubrick is one of the filmmakers of all time, for better or for worse. Your personal feelings about the movies he directs aside, one would be seriously hard-pressed to say when a conversation topic about culturally important movies is brought up, he isn't one of the first ones that come to mind. Kubrick's ability to portray the works he adapts and creates sometimes truly stem from the grungiest parts of the human psyche, but it simply works and is strangely enticing for just one more watch. I'm talking about the things that you probably could have gone your entire life without being exposed to, and ideas that make his extended filmography list questionable upon initial inspection, but once you accept the art for what it is, you can't turn away. He's able to do this by asking a viewer one easy question: how much are you willing to endure before reality sets back in? Such is the case for the 1971 theatrical adaptation of Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel of the same name, A Clockwork Orange. Some people call the story of this title a cautionary tale of nature versus nurture, while others will simply write it off as an exhibitionist's wet dream that should forever be lost to the sands of time. But very few have sat and examined what about the film made them tick in the first place. Alex DeLarge is our main character in A Clockwork Orange. The universe of the novel and film respectively take place in an alternate version of London where the government, expectations, and society that heats them all are a bit different, to say the least. Drugs, murder, non-consensual acts of degeneracy, and overall chaos are commonplace here. Being in the thick of that very same melting pot of heretics lies Alex. He's a 17-year-old boy that has who essentially boils down to roommates for parents, followers that hang on to his every word for friends, and an unruly crabs-in-a-bucket situation for a hometown. But interestingly enough, you can easily see that our main lead thrives in this sort of environment. There is no fear. No remorse, not even a single ounce of doubt in many of the things that he's already gotten and is soon to get himself into. We as viewers of this madness are only given one moment of reprieve throughout the entire film. A gentle pullback at the camera and a glass of milk. Sure, the young lad at the center of it all is a bit unsettling to look at, but so far so good. At least, until that same gentle pullback reveals more of the status and setting that DeLarge and his crew are currently in, where you come to understand that there is indeed nothing sacred in this story. Things only get more hectic from here on out though, and that's just the intro. Alex and his droogs, as they're called, either independently or as a collective on several occasions, beat a man within an inch of his life, break into a neighbor's home to vandalize and terrorize a family, along with committing heinous acts of sexual deviancy with numerous women without a care in the world. The way that these instances are depicted are exaggerations to their highest form. Not in the sense that these acts aren't plausible, but in a manner that is supposed to make you think, there's no way this is normal, right? It's loud, obnoxious in the methods that were chosen to depict everything, and shows DeLarge and company as egregiously comical maniacs that believe what they're doing is a calling for them. You aren't supposed to like these guys, but especially not Alex. All of his actions within the story make his eventual imprisonment and subsequent rehabilitation feel like a proper display of justice without prejudice, because you wouldn't stand for a society that allowed someone so evil to be left to their own devices, right? You hate Alex, based off everything I said, not because of his upbringing or motivations, because the rest of the world built here is the same, but you hate him because in comparison to that same world, he weirdly comes off as someone that's actively trying to make these decisions within a society that appears to be droning along as the chaos comes. The prison filled with cynical doctors he gets sent to acts as a stomping ground for the equivalent of forced lobotomies. His parents that subject themselves to his behavior not out of fear but out of ignorance. Followers that even when DeLarge bullies them into submission still stick around as loyally as a dog. And other supposed authoritative guidance figures that show a lack of responsibility as they've long abandoned the concept of being community vanguards. To us, the viewer, and the extended cast, Alex DeLarge as a person is a theatrical experience, a grand thesis to ogle at. One like no other that is seemingly so far out there that we firmly believe the average person shouldn't be able to fathom standing in the shoes of. I mean, how could they? We're talking about someone nigh untouchable. Somebody that, in an already mythical and exaggerated world, still has the gall to exist and somehow be the center of attention. A character that's seated so far out of the realm of possibility, yet you can't look away. It'll make sense in just a sec, I promise, but at first, what the hell does any of this have to do with Sonic the Hedgehog? This guy is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. A true force not for good per se, but for all things to be just in the world, and allot whoever, whenever, and whatever the freedoms to live life the way they wish to do so. If those same freedoms infringe upon others to do the same, however, his problems often begin there, but that's a whole other discussion. With Sonic, you begin to see him and the philosophy he has about the world as this innate good that just so happens to exist, much in the vein of someone like a Superman or a Goku, his often compared to alternatives. He and Alex DeLarge share some striking similarities, however. Just stick with me here. Both these guys truthfully see no issues with what they choose to spend their time doing, even despite numerous attempts to change their inherent nature. Whereas Alex depicts the gutter of human filth that is willing to lie, cheat, steal, and oppress to exercise his self-inflicted superiority unto the world, Sonic the Hedgehog portrays this absolute good that is possible within all of us if the tools at our disposal fit the bill. They're equally treated as, and will continue to be treated as, things to marvel at. One is revered and idolized both in-universe and real life for his ability to overcome any obstacle with a smile, a little bit of wit, and some sauce as the term goes nowadays. The other is one that you want to avoid becoming at any cost, one that you wouldn't become at any cost. You can't relate to the former because he's this enigma that's great, heroic, serves as his unobtainable symbol of a society perfected, and, at least I hope, you choose not to relate to the latter because you're better than that, right? Unironically, characters and people with extreme or over-exaggerations of personalities have been potentially linked to helping us define who we are and who we want to be in everyday life. Everyone knows or is at least somewhat familiar with the constant battles that video games have had to partake in since their inception, what with parents feeling like they turn your brain to mush and news outlets capitalizing on that same fear to warn about the negative effect they'd have on your personality. Now, what I'm about to say may seem blasphemous in the grand scheme of things, but I mean this with the purest intention. They were right. But not in the sense that I'm sure you're thinking. Has a video game ever made you want to be a better person? It sounds silly, yeah, but I want you to be honest with yourself and genuinely sit with the question for a bit. The world building, characters, even the environment itself are all aspects of a game that can revolutionize how we feel about our lives in relation to the journey that we just experienced. Obviously, you're able to not have the line between reality and fiction blurred, but everything you went through, the emotions you felt, and the interpretations that you formed from it all are yours to keep. It's second nature to know in most titles and media, the main character will end up alright. The day will be saved by the hero who never wavered in the face of adversity, and they set off to face the next calamity. But that's not you. You are the NPC that had a difficult time expressing your affection for a loved one when going through a turbulent time. Felt stumped with what to do when it comes to not living the life you thought you'd be living. And maybe even the one who gave the protagonist a helpful hint or two when they needed it most. Such a rarity is it to relate to the main character of a piece of media, but that doesn't impede the enjoyment you have of it, does it? If anything, it allows you to deflect whatever emotions would have arisen and view the story from an utterly neutral standpoint, able to take it all in from an unbiased attitude. At times though, there is something relatable about a narrative that doesn't get talked about all that often, and it's the ability to see someone you know in a main character's role. A concept that's grounded in reality enough for you to have seen it maybe once or twice in your life, and although it doesn't apply explicitly to you, the ability to turn away just isn't there. For your hope is that maybe this will be the moment it all clicks. The media piece that inspired this entire video was one of 2025's final theatrical releases of the year, Marty Supreme. Funny story, I had no idea this movie was even coming out and only caught wind of it due to a music video promotion that I saw Timothée Chalamet do with a rapper who apparently was being memed on for looking like Timothée Chalamet. It's a whole story, but I digress. Marty Supreme subverts your expectations about the concepts presented within the promotional material. You're sold a story of a young man who wants to be something. We've seen it before, we'll see it again. Marty is gung-ho in his intention to be the world's #1 table tennis champion. One that will rightfully earn his spot on the back of a Wheaties box, no less, but layered in the inner confines of said promotional material is a deeper beast that will soon be uncovered. Why table tennis specifically? How come Marty is running through the streets of New York not with a look of wonder on his face, but a hurried expression and paranoia? When you watch the film though, and I heavily implore you to do so, the layers peel back. What you're given is not only a story about the goal of being the very best, as many have delivered before, but also one of a young man in a post-World War II New York, where everyone's business but his own is flourishing. The air is filled with those who have managed to find new breath after a life-changing event. Boom babies are being born, that's important, trust me, and the US has access to more resources than ever now. The country is sitting at the center of everything, with cash busting out of the seams and ready to invest in even niche endeavors, one of which just so happens to be competitive table tennis. A film like this is one that sends a man on a downward spiral that masks itself as a roller coaster of events, with even the highs presented not being able to distract the viewer from the understanding that all of this is temporary. Fleeting moments of joy and, yes, it's finally all coming together, that you can't enjoy because, well, Marty kinda sucks. While not in the same league as the maniacal Alex DeLarge, he still displays a fair share of troublesome behavior. Lying, stealing, adultery, and abandoning the things and people that are closest to him just to get even closer to his dream of being the best table tennis player in the world all come as a second nature to him. When he takes back money from a family member that owes him in order to catch a flight to the world table tennis match. And yeah, he makes it pretty far, but along the way he lets the grandeur of being the big shot in a new country go to his head. Finessing his way into a top-class suite, making a move on a married woman who, yeah, does have a strained relationship with her businessman husband currently, but she's still married, and displaying a lack of true sportsmanship while talking about the other competitors since he believes that he's the very best at the sport. Now, ultimately, he ends up losing to the very same player he was verbally punching down on at the end of the finals, but it doesn't stop there for Marty. Upon returning to the States and running into a childhood friend after months and months of avoiding her, Marty discovers that she's pregnant, and considering that they had relations while she was with her now ex-husband, you can see what kind of pattern this guy follows. Several other instances like this and more happen throughout the film, and I know I've given you enough reason to absolutely despise the guy, but the reason why I love Marty and this movie so much is because it's raw and real as hell, dude. It may not and does not relate to me, nor you, and how we've lived our lives, but this is someone's life. For better or for worse, and that's not ours to say, but everyone can say they objectively know someone who's taking part in self-destructive behavior in order to reach a dream of theirs. Whether it's using charm as a manipulation tactic, living by the rule of get now, pay never, or putting themselves in humiliating circumstances if it means they will come out on the other side better than who they entered as. One thing is for certain, everybody wants to rule the world. Life is a constant battle of trying to figure out who you're supposed to be, but that's not the only part of the equation. What are you willing to do in order to make your ambitions into a reality? The things you're willing to sacrifice may seem minuscule at the moment, but the compounding effects are almost always waiting to come back to bite you in the ass if you're not careful. Even though you can probably sympathize with Marty like I can on a number of things, he largely is not you and you are not him. But does that impact the understanding of the journey he and other protagonists go on? The answer is overall no, but the beauty of any story is seeing how you can fit yourself into it. There are elements that you can align with, like their morals or understanding about the universe around them, but more often than not, main characters serve as the exemplars of a narrative. Exceptions do exist though. I just watched Wonder Man this past weekend and I think you should too, since it acts as a love letter to creatives and those who've had to grow up with a family that doesn't understand that you have to be your own trailblazer. Highly recommend you give it a go and see what or who you can connect with in that show. But that aside, we can't all be badasses. Can't be the hero of the story all the time. Definitely won't always succeed like the heroes in our media, and won't be understood by the personalities whose stories we do dive into. While the main characters from some of our favorite video games, movies, books, and shows may not get us in our full authentic selves, does any of that really matter as long as we're able to find someone or something that does? We can find solace in the fact that someone got it, somewhere. Somebody shared the struggle we were in and the main character came along and helped us, offering a new perspective on the situation. Maybe that's all we were looking for. Or maybe it got us kickstarted to go off on a journey of our own. So, once again, let me ask you something. What makes a character resonate with you?